Facebook and recording.
Who is able to please rise, and Councilman Pacina, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Your Honor. Placing our hands over our heart, we say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll now ask the clerk to please read the call of the meeting.
The Chief of Police of the City of Middletown, greetings. By authority of the State of Connecticut, you are hereby commanded to summon and notify Eugene P. Nocera, Megan R. Carta, Jeanette Blackwell, Vincent J. Lafredo, Darnell Ford, Edward McKeon, Grady L. Faulkner Jr., Philip J. Pacina, Anthony S. Gennaro Sr., Edward Ford Jr., Linda Salafia, Anthony Mangiafico, members of the Common Council of the City of Middletown, to attend a special meeting of said Common Council for the purpose of conducting the community public meeting, giving members of the public the opportunity to raise or express any issues of concern within the jurisdiction of the Common Council. Said meeting shall be a hybrid meeting, be held in the council chamber of the municipal building in said city and remotely via WebEx at Join a Meeting, event 2330-132-1843, on Thursday, July 14, 2022 at 6 o'clock p.m. Hereof fail not, but make due service and return to the clerk of said city 3 hours prior to the time of fixed meeting. City of Middletown, June 14, 2022. Attested by Honorable Benjamin D. Florsheim, Mayor. City of Middletown, June 30th, 2022. I hereby certify I have delivered an attested copy of the foregoing order and attached agenda of the Common Council meeting to each and every council member named above via electronic mail. Chief of Police Eric Costa.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will declare the call a legal call and the meeting a legal meeting. And as stated earlier, we are here for the purpose of our quarterly community meeting for residents to bring forward any issues before the Common Council and speak to those issues on the record. So thank you to everybody who is here to listen and to speak. We do have a hybrid meeting set up, so people who are interested in speaking either online or in person will be able to do so. Here in the chamber, if you'd like to speak, you can either approach the podium or you can raise your hand and we can make sure that we get the mic to you. And we also have WebEx speakers, and we have a hand raised already. You can use the hand raise function on WebEx if you are joining, and we will call on you in order. So we will try to, as fairly as possible, go back and forth between the chamber. We'll start here in the chamber, and then we'll go to our first hand raise on WebEx, and we'll try to alternate as best we can from there. And we'll just ask that everybody state their name and their address at the beginning of their remarks, and to keep their remarks to 10 minutes is the time limit for public hearing, or for the public comment, or excuse me, the community meetings, subject to extension by the council if need be. So with all that said, thank you all for being here, and we will open the public comment, and we will start here in the council chamber. So you have the floor. We'll start with our first speaker.
Thank you. Mayor Florsheim and members of the council, thank you for providing this opportunity to members of the public to address.
You need to turn the microphone on. We have no audio.
So,
It's a little switch.
sorry.
Yeah. He has to give his name too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Florsheim and members of the council, thank you for providing this opportunity to members of the public to address you on any matters of concern to us. I appreciate it and the time and talent you all give to the people of this city. My name is Paul Gianfrido, and I live at 369 Pine Street in Middletown. I've been a resident of Middletown for 4 years, but prior to that lived in Middletown from 1953 until 2001. I served as mayor from 1989 to 1991, and its sole resident state representative from 1979 to 1990. I'm here today to ask your help and support regarding the Long Hill Estate and the Long Hill Estate Authority. My full statement that follows details my personal history of the estate, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to read out loud paragraphs that in the written statement are not in bold. But to summarize my history with the state, As a state legislator, I made the first overture to acquire the state for public use. As mayor, I was successful, that by the way was 1984. As mayor, I was successful in obtaining a $1 million commitment from the state to help the city acquire the estate. As a resident, I had my wedding reception there in 2001. And as a parent, I feel honored that 2 memorial trees are there, honoring the lives of my late children, Timothy and Larissa. To oversee the estate, the Common Council passed a resolution on April 6, 1998, updating it in 2003, creating a Long Hill Estate Authority, and giving it the obligation, quote, to administer, operate, and maintain said Long Hill Estate, including all structures and land, close quote, while reserving to itself the authority of approving its master plan, which included, quote, the construction, demolition, extension, renovation, or substantial improvement of all structures, lands, lakes, ponds and watercourses, conservation areas, park and recreational facilities, public utilities, roads, and walkways. I'm here because of a set of circumstances that began after the city generously donated the tree that honors our daughter Larissa back in 2018. When the city donated the tree, it selected, not us, it selected what is known as the vernal pool area, a landscaped area on the edge of the woods directly east of the mansion, to place the tree. My wife Pam and I wondered what we could do to help and thank the city for its generosity to us after it donated Larissa's tree. To help the entire estate, Pam joined the Long Hill Estate Authority in 2019, on which she served until she was forced off earlier this year. And because we had only limited funds to give, in 2020 we tapped our modest donor-advised fund at Fidelity Charitable for a $5,000 grant to the LHEA through its supporting nonprofit organization to clean up and revitalize the vernal pool area. There was no controversy about this at the time. The pool area had deteriorated a lot in recent years and was in need of restoration. There was LHEA consensus about this, and Pam was appointed chair of both the Building and Grounds Committee and the Vernal Pool Advisory Committee. In addition to giving our $5,000, Pam wrote the draft of an additional $3,500 grant to the Rock Fall Foundation for restoration of the pool area. Now, these are the concerns I would like to share with you this evening. One, the authority took our $5,000 for the vernal pool area, put it into its 2021-2022 budget, and then refused to spend it or do the agreed upon work in the area. On 3 occasions, twice verbally and once in writing, the authority chair said they would return the money, but after we requested in writing that they do so back in May, they have not returned the unspent money and have ignored multiple attempts from Fidelity Charitable to get it back. Meanwhile, the vernal pool area and its landscape is once again overrun by invasive weeds, and the ADA accessible path is no longer even visible. 2, the LHEA spent an astonishing amount of money removing trees for a private wedding in 2020 after the hurricane, even though the estate could have hosted the wedding without doing tens of thousands of dollars of cleanup work. It appears that the dollars might have been paid to a vendor with which a member of the authority had a personal relationship, and therefore a true conflict of interest, but without a vote by the LHEA to allow that member to absent themselves as required. And while the authority chair wrote to me in a May 21st letter, also sent to several council members, that, quote, all extraordinary expenditures are discussed and documented, close quote, this by itself would not be sufficient to clear a conflict of interest. 3, it appears that the authority staff allowed a private party to remove a memorial tree from the property and toss it in the woods because that party did not like the placement of the tree. Informal authority records reflect that the tree was the memorial tree for Willard McCrae, a highly respected former member of this council and community. When I asked about this, the board chair contended that the authority and its executive director have the authority to decide how trees and the landscapes around them will be maintained. But I think this view deserves closer scrutiny, and perhaps the obvious conclusion will make some people here uncomfortable. Ibram X. Kendi, who literally wrote the book on racism and anti-racism, defines racist policy as one that, regardless of intent, leads to greater inequality in outcomes based on race, and an anti-racist policy as one that leads to greater equality. As of 2021, according to authority data, there appeared to be only 2 memorial trees that were clearly dedicated to people of color, Willard's and our daughter Larissa's. And these were the only 2 trees that were treated disrespectfully by the authority, one by being removed and the other by being placed in an area that was allowed to deteriorate dramatically during the past 3 years. Regardless of intent, this is an example of racism. We all wonder in what small ways we can engage in anti-racist activities. Repairing this damage could be one of them. 4, unlike other government authorities such as the Housing Authority, the authority has failed to publish its agendas and minutes for public scrutiny on the city's website or any other for the past 3 years. While it is supposed to meet at the same time every month, it changes those times and dates without providing special notice to public whenever it wishes. Here's what the LHEA Authority Chair told me in his May 21st letter. Quote, the lack of postings have been a function of a technology conversion where the LHEA were not loading into the city's website. We spoke with the mayor and will be posting future meetings, close quote. It's now July 14th. It has not posted any meetings since then, or any from the time the current executive director was hired. 5, as I noted earlier, the grant we made to the LHEA was a companion to a grant made by the Rock Fall Foundation. Ours was for $5,000 and the Rock Fall grant was for $3,500. In arguing that the authority was not obligated to spend our grant as directed, the LHEA chair wrote to me on May 31st that, quote, your matching contribution to the Rock Fall grant, and it was to the Rock Fall grant in its specifics, close quote, and that the LHEA was in compliance with the Rock Fall grant, and presumably therefore in compliance with ours. What he failed to note, however, was that the LHEA made a final report to the Rock Fall Foundation in February 2022, indicating that all that grant, including its match, had been expended. However, as of May 2022, when we requested its return, according to the official financial statements of the Long Hill Estate Authority, none of our grant dollars had been expended. So the LHEA was either purposely misleading me about the grant match or was purposely misled. And 6, neither of those would surprise me because in the same letter, the chair wrote to me that native plantings were being done in the spring. And in the final report to Rock Fall, the LHEA reported that $2,000 worth of plants had already been purchased as of February. All you need to do is look at pictures of the area I posted on Facebook this week to know that neither of these things appear to have happened. 7, I note that today the city's website reminds residents that mowings require to be done to a height of no more than 8 inches. This must not apply to the vernal pools landscape, whose weeds are growing to 3 feet or higher. Now, the LHEA is failing to maintain the entire estate, which by ordinance is its primary responsibility. Its primary responsibility is not, as the LHEA chair has contended to me, to run an $800,000 business. While I am grateful that the authority raises some of the money needed to maintain the estate, it is not free of the city's help, as the chair claimed when he wrote to me that, quote, the city of Middletown does not maintain or support the budget of the LHEA, close quote. This is untrue and misleading. For example, the city, not the LHEA, paid the 6-figure cost of repaving the driveway last year, which most certainly supported the budget of the LHEA. Today, I'm asking you all for 3 things. First, the LHEA has a majority of its positions open this year. In the mayor's appointments and in your approval, please put new people on the LHEA who understand the history of the place and are committed not just to the wedding business, but to maintaining the entire estate as envisioned in 1998 and 2003. Second, please reassert the council's authority to approve changes to the master plan and the LHEA's obligation to maintain the entire estate in that plan. The changes the LHEA is intentionally making to the vernal pool area and others made to the area around the Excedra, where Willard McCrae's tree was located, were not approved by the council, and the LHEA should be directed by the council's attorney, 30 seconds, council's attorney to restore the areas as they were and to come to the council if they want to change them in the future. Third and finally, can you just help Pam and me figure out what went wrong with our efforts? All we ever did was offer to help maintain the current and approved vision for the state with both dollars and sweat equity. We've since been accused of conflicts of interest, being overly political, overstepping authority, and being overly emotional. when all the LHEA had to do was use our money to pull some weeds, fix a path or two in a bridge, improve a landscape with some new plants, and mow the grass regularly, all of which they were already doing pretty much until 2019. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And something that I should have said at the outset is that there won't be an opportunity tonight for dialogue back and forth from the dais, but just want to thank all of our speakers and let everybody know that in terms of follow-up, we are listening closely, we are taking notes, and we look forward to follow-up conversations after these meetings. So thank you, and we will go next to our first hand raised on WebEx, who is Natasha Ortiz. And you are unmuted, or you will be unmuted. You are unmuted now, and you have the floor. So thank you for being here, and we'll start the 10-minute time frame.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Honor, and to the members of the Common Council. My name is Attorney Anastasia Douglas Ortiz. I have been an advocate for the Landmark Investment Project and the minority set-aside portion component especially. I have been working very closely with this project and watching all of the hard work that the Common Council and the EDC and the mayor has put forward to bring this project to where it is at this particular time. Understanding now that we have an assignment of the tax abatement that is before the Common Council and all I's are going to be dotted and T's crossed. Absolutely. This project is one that is going to be great for the community. It is one that is definitely needed for the minorities, the minority contractors whom the interest has only grown exponentially. When we think about the inflation that has hit across the country, it's been particularly harder in Connecticut because of the cost of living here. So it is absolutely crucial that we get these jobs going forward, this tax abatement reviewed, looked at, and hopefully assigned with some type of critical urgency. Just understanding that, you know, these particular contractors are ready. They've paid attention throughout the past 12 months of what's been occurring with this particular tax abatement. We've put in place assistance and help that will make sure the minority contractors are ready and prepared to place bids on any of these contracts that come up. Their licenses, their insurances are in place, that they are to the specs that will be needed, and then they're able to place these bids as they come up when they're available. So I just wanted to express, you know, how hard I've seen how hard the Common Council and the EDC has worked to get this passed, and the minority set aside and the contractors are very, very eager. They are anxiously awaiting for this to move forward. It has been amazing work to see this get to this place and where it is, and just would like to see it to continue and get over this next hurdle for the assignment from Landmark Investment to Newfield Residential LLC. Just great work from both sides, from the Common Council, from Landmark, getting this to where it is now, and just would like to be able to help out the community and the minorities with these contracts, and, you know, extend some further income into their households, into their budgets, especially with the state of the inflation that is occurring across the state and especially here in Connecticut. So I thank the committee and the mayor for his time and for listening to just my thoughts and my concerns about this particular assignment of the tax abatement. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We will go to our next speaker, and if there's anybody in the chamber wishing to speak, you may approach the podium.
Hi, Bill Wilson, 220 Woodbury Circle. I'm here speaking as the chairperson of the Middletown Republican Town Committee. We have a council spot that's going to be opening up. Ed Ford has stepped down as of August 3rd. And we're going to have someone coming up and filling a position where we're interviewing people now. I would hope that the council would give us the same courtesy that they used to give us years ago, where we pick our candidate and you pass them. It happened with the Board of Ed, where we put up a candidate and it was rejected, and you put up a candidate, the Democrats did. Same thing a couple of months ago. We put up a candidate for P&Z alternate position. You rejected the individual. If this was an election and they were elected to office, you would have no say. So the courtesy I'm asking for is the same courtesy that we've given your party every time you have had this issue come up, that you give the same courtesy to us. If we put a candidate up, we do go through and we check out everything on them. We do a background check, we do everything. I would wish that you would give us the same courtesy to pass our individuals as we would do for you. We don't object when you put up people. When Mr. Magnifico was put up as counsel, we had no issue with that. But it seems like 3 times in the last 6 years, there have been issues with our candidates. Again, this was an elected official. You would have no say. So please pass our people and don't play politics with something that should just be done automatically. Again, it was a courtesy for the last 50 years. It shouldn't be stopped now. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. We have a hand raised on WebEx, so we will go there next, and then that is our last one up for now, so we can return to the chamber. So, Alan Marshall, you will be unmuted, and the floor will be yours. Looks like you're still muted, though.
Hello. Thank you for taking the time to hear from me today. My name is Alan Marshall, and I've been privileged with the opportunity to represent Landmark Development for over the last year, but particularly this project's been going on for about a year and a half. To talk about this project on on Newfield Street, it's a monumentously progressive deal for the city that incentivizes businesses and minority contractors. And I could not stress enough the things that Natasha Ortiz had said earlier about our project. And our request tonight is that you approve the tax abatement assignment. Now, you may have heard about our tax abatement assignment, and I want to stress the fact that there are several factors about this tax abatement assignment that do not change regarding this project. When we first initially talked about it, we introduced a minority set aside with a floor of $1 million. That's something that no private land developer has ever done in Middletown, and to provide equity to minority communities, and that is fully intact. And in fact, there are minority contractors that are waiting in this very moment for this tax assignment, the tax abatement assignment, to be approved, so that we can get up and running. We have already begun put together workshops, packages, and spoken with even the ministerial alliance in town regarding securing minority contractors within our community for this project. Not only that, we promised $100,000. It's another thing that no private land developer has ever done. We promised $100,000 to minority. I'm sorry, not to minority contractors. We promised $100,000 to businesses in the city. We went door to door and spoke with businesses, and we're fully ready to keep that promise and uphold that promise of giving out $100,000 to the businesses in Middletown once our project is once this abatement is approved, tax abatement assignment is approved. And the third thing to keep in mind also is that Glenn Russo is still heavily and financially invested in this project, even with the assignment. We have secured a loan through Provident Bank of New Jersey, and they made a commitment to secure the loan. And currently, the one thing to think about is that the economy is down. We're nearing an economic crisis, and things, couldn't look more bleak for our country, but even for our city. Approving this would put work into the hands of minority contractors and work in the city. And we talked about how much earlier on different common council meetings, how much money is actually going into the economy over the phases of this project. It was $1.5 billion over 100 years. And so that is something to keep in mind. Now, land development project on Newfield Street couldn't come at a more critical time. And our ask tonight is that you approve the assignment of this tax abatement to Newfield Residential LLC. Honorable Mayor and Common Council, I am grateful to be able to speak to you tonight. And my hope is that you would approve this tax abatement to Newfield Residential LLC, the tax abatement assignment. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you very much, and we will move on to our next speaker. So anybody in the chamber wishing to speak may approach the podium.
Hope Casper, I'm a retired city employee and also former member of the Common Council. I'd just like to call to your attention that company that's being used for prescriptions by the city of Middletown is refusing to provide coverage for my medication. I hear that there's others that this has happened to, and I'd like to know who's giving them the authority to pick and choose what type of medication they're going to approve that your doctor's prescribed. They've been doing this for this one prescription to me for probably the last year. And I'd also like to say that risk management has done a phenomenal job in getting them to provide that coverage for the medication. But I do think that puts the city of Middletown in a very poor position when employees and retirees are being denied the medication prescribed by their doctors. So I would like you to investigate what's going on with them, and if necessary, we didn't always have Express Scripts as the provider. We had other companies that I feel have done a much better job and haven't denied employees and retirees their medication. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we can move on to our next speaker.
Hi, good evening, Council and Mayor. I'm Kathy Dwyer from 515 Middlefield Street.
If you could just make sure to speak into the mic for those who are listening.
Okay, I'm Kathy Dwyer from 515 Middlefield Street in Middletown. I've been to the last couple of meetings. I represent some residents of Middlefield Street, Forest Street, George Street, and Aston Lane regarding 455 Middlefield Street, which is asking for a special use for used cars. I don't want you to get lost in the weeds, so to speak, because this is a very complicated issue going over many years. There are issues with the 1993 special use, and we need them resolved and investigated properly. The special use request was denied on 7/7 of this year, of July. The sign they put up was improper. It was only put up for 6 days instead of the 7. It didn't give any of us residents enough time to either get lawyers or do research on our own. The land itself is, there's a junkyard in the back of 2 big buildings there, and the junkyard is feeding into the Connecticut River. It's feeding from the, not the Connecticut River, but the Cockenshaw, which goes into the Connecticut River. That's also feeding probably into our wells. Also, they're spray painting on the inside of the building, and even though the 3 town officials went there today, they just investigated the outside, which the inside has just as many violations as the outside. So we need this special use that supposedly was passed in 1993, but if you read the affidavit, it says this, this special request, they're here. I can find my glasses. This special, original special exemption application has since been lost, destroyed, or misplaced. So when they reissued it, they just reissued it on somebody's word. Anyway, we have sincere concerns about EPA, DEP, environmental hazards in that area. We can't breathe when they spray paint. It's so bad at night. I asked if I could upload a video of the spray paint coming out of the top of the building. They wouldn't let me, but I mean, you can't breathe. Also, the chemicals probably from the 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever junk cars are in the back are contaminating the water. So I really need somebody to look into this so it doesn't just get swept under the rug. And I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we will move to our next speaker. So anybody wishing to go right ahead. I'll just ask if people can make sure to speak closely to the mic so that folks on the listening online can hear.
Mayor Florsheim, council members, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Back in April, I think you'll remember, I came to you with budgetary concerns about the Russell Library.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you just state your name for the record,
Oh, I'm
please?
sorry. I'm Gail Thompson Allen, and I live at 470 County Road in Guilford. Back in April, I came to you with budgetary concerns about the Russell Library, specifically the extremely large disparity between the total administrative salaries and the total materials budget. I was very grateful that 3 Common Council members presented a resolution to investigate the library, and though it did not pass, the vote was 4-6. It is encouraging that you are now aware that the city should be concerned about the administration of the Russell Library. I am here tonight to ask for your help once again. I come to you as a former employee and union president at the Russell Library. Numerous former and current employees concur that a pervasive toxic work environment has existed under the current Russell Library administration since February 2019. The serious concerns include tactics of harassment, intimidation, and retaliation. Employees are afraid to speak up, fearing reprisal. Numerous valued longtime employees have left, some without another prospect, because their physical and mental well-being has been compromised. Our concerns when presented to the library board are discredited. And when these same concerns are conveyed to the city, we are told that the library is not a city department, and hence their hands are tied, which unfortunately is true. I'm asking for your help with the library staff's predicament, and hope that in addition to the concerns about the budget, you'll also investigate the toxic work environment. It gives me no pleasure, and do not ask this lightly. I am well aware of the seriousness of these allegations. I prepared a letter for you documenting the toxic work environment at the Russell Library over the past several years, which has been signed by former employees and members of the public, which I will give to the council clerk to distribute to you. So here I stand before you tonight alone, except I'm not alone. I have a fellow supporter here with me tonight. I asked all current and former employees of the Russell Library to join me here. All refused. The reason for their refusal was simple: fear. Fear of retaliation. As if with one voice, they all replied to me, "Look what happens to those who speak up." Both myself and a current employee were threatened with a lawsuit after speaking up at the budget hearing in April. This lawsuit demanded a retraction of my remarks and to cease and desist from making remarks about the library. And if I did not do so, I would face punitive and compensatory damages. You are aware of the 5-page letter from my lawyer to the library and the library director stating that I did nothing wrong and was performing a valuable civic duty to question the expenditure of public funds. He also noted the legal precedent which made their lawsuit basically invalid. You're also aware that the library and the library director's lawyer responded with 2 sentences, saying they would neither apologize nor withdraw the threat of suing me. So here I stand before you, still under threat of litigation for not shutting up. The current library director also felt it necessary to email the former director of the library, who also spoke at the budget hearing, asking him if he concurred with the misinformation that I presented at the hearing, and asked him if he had done any research prior to the meeting. Is this really what you want the face of your public library to be? Threatening and intimidating people to silence them? Again, I ask for your help and appreciate the opportunity to speak. I thought I was alone, but like I said, I do have the supporter here. I just wanted to say that I contacted a friend and former colleague at the library and sent them the letter that you're going to see about the toxic work environment. Not one current member of the library felt they could sign it, and their reason was fearful of retaliation. They're in current contract negotiations right now, and they were just afraid of how that might affect the contract negotiations, even if they signed it anonymously. I also talked to former employees that also agreed not to show up tonight for fear of me being a former employee and was retaliated against for speaking up at the April budget hearing. So you can see that the reluctance for getting support for me is real, and it's because of fear. So I just am really hoping that you can really take a look into this situation, because so many so many lives, really, I'm not being melodramatic, have been damaged by this current administration, and I think it deserves your attention to them in hopes that you can resolve this situation. I thank you very much for your time.
If you can leave the documents in the box on the podium, please, and I can pick those up.
Right there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you. All right, we will move on to our next speaker. So anybody wishing to speak may approach the podium.
Good evening. Deborah Hopkins, 218 Newfield Street, Middletown, Connecticut, and the liaison for the Middletown Minister Alliance. And I'm here tonight to speak in regards to the landmark investment Newfield Street project, asking for your continued support in the assignment to the Newfield Residential LLC. This is a $65+ million project, which is very beneficial to our community. Given the climate of our economy, it's been reported that homes are now losing $6,000 a month of their income because of all the rising costs. And when I look at Chapter 272, Tax Abatement, Article 1, for tax abatement, exemptions, and incentives, they have a list, the purpose of the tax abatement and incentives. This project meets all those criteria, providing jobs, bringing businesses into the community, and creating a long-term tax base. So I am asking for your support to do the assignment, and we have been working diligently, echoing what Attorney Ortiz has said and Mr. Marshall, that we have been working very hard talking to contractors, minority contractors, getting them excited about the project, getting them ready to be able to bid on this project. And they're all excited, and I have two contractors here. Now, these contractors are Middletown homegrown individuals. So we're not, just saying whatever. We're actually going out recruiting people and getting everything in place so that we can make our Middletown even a better place for all residents of Middletown. And what was else I going to say? So we do have the jobs ready, and it's so critical right now. If you think about people losing $6,000 a month right now, what is it going to look like down the road? So jobs are critical. It's critical to the businesses in Middletown. People will be buying lunch. They'll be coming downtown. I mean, it's just a ripple effect. And at this time, I would like to invite the two contractors up to speak. Thank you. Jerome and Amari.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'm Jerome Holly, 4 Bluebell Lane, Middletown, Connecticut. Born in Connecticut, longtime member. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm pleased to be here for the back Deborah Hopkins 100% on a minority contractor owner of Holly Electric LLC. And I appreciate anything, your support in this project. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amari Spivey. I'm from Middletown, born and raised. I'm a former NFL starting safety. Went to Xavier, went on to Iowa, then to Detroit. I just want to say I'm excited to see this project be to go forth, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. And I just hope we could get it going. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much to all three of those speakers. And if there are any other members of the public wishing to speak, you may approach the podium at this time.
Hi, greetings, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to be here. I am speaking in support of the employees.
State your name, please.
Oh, yes, sorry, Jim Fellows, 44 Andrew Street, Middletown, Connecticut. I'm here to support the employees of Russell Library. I did so via WebEx back at the budget meeting, and someone from the library governance got up and totally mischaracterized my remarks, right? Like moments after I spoke, saying, I was attacking the library and the staff, which I found interesting, Maybe the remarks were prepared ahead of time and they decided to read it regardless of what I had actually said. Don't know. Or maybe they actually didn't listen and said they had, or maybe it really made no difference what I said. But in the letter which I have seen that you'll see from Gail, that sort of interaction is typical, and it recurs over and over again. There's a wall, and you won't get past it. They define the rules, they define the responses, and they redefine the reality of the situation. Now, I think we heard from former Mayor Gianfrida about a similar situation going on in town in another organization. And I think we need to have our antenna up and investigating, because in all these cases, money is involved. People are making decisions that may not be to the advantage of employees or residents. And I think we should be concerned, very, very concerned. I personally know, more than 10 former employees and employees at Russell Library, and I have yet to meet an employee there, and I'm not talking about management, I'm talking about the employees, who wasn't doing their job wonderfully and wasn't a pleasure to work with. It's an amazing institution. I've been using the library intensely since 1978, probably, at least, probably longer. They helped me build a classroom library when I was teaching in Hartford. Recommended hundreds of books. People there have noticed the sort of interests I have in the research I do and suggested books to me. Not low-level suggestions, but really insightful suggestions. I worked with Gail quite a bit over the 20 or 30 years, helping to order less sort of top of the public perception DVDs and films that we might be interested in, and very supportive. Providing presentations there, always very supportive. And I think it's time that we take a really close look at what management is doing, why they might be doing, because it seems to be fairly mysterious. It's not making sense. It's not adding up to much that I can really explain why they're acting this way, and not let it just continue the way it is. So one other thing about the library, unrelated to the employee situation, they have a process, as many libraries do in the country, called, and this is their term, weeding. It's not a positive term. There's no use of the word weeding. That's a good thing. It always implies that something needs to be removed because it's a problem. And this is what they do with books. Now, there's no library in the country that doesn't have a space problem. You find as soon as you build a library that it fills up, and then you have more books than you can fit, and you want to buy new books. But there's a solution. And university and archives all over the world have this same problem. It has a solution: off-site storage. You don't spend, a huge amount of money every year buying materials and then throw them away, 5 to 10 years later because they're no longer useful. You store them off-site, and you select very carefully maybe a few things that are damaged or obviously don't need to be replaced. But I can give you examples of books that changed American history that are no longer available in the state of Connecticut, except in Greenwich, for example. They seem to have some of these books. These are books by investigative journalists about the whole financial structure of our current economy. They're books that were game-changing books at the time. And these should never be lost in a public library, because the public library is the foundation of democracy. And there are plenty of well-funded sources and interests in our country which will always prevail. Lots of well-funded interests. But for the democracy to prevail, we need libraries that everyone can access, where they can find history that's accurate. They can find all kinds of things. So I would suggest that when any planning for the library is mentioned, that we talk about off-site storage and stop throwing away useful books. I have purchased books online over the last 6 years that I see disappearing from Connecticut public libraries, and they're invariably from public libraries. They're not coming from private collections. They're coming from public libraries. And I don't know what what the libraries are getting for them, but I pay $60, sometimes $100 for some of these volumes, you know? And without these volumes, you would not be able to research many important topics. So that's it. Just, you know, one particular thing that I think we should focus on, and then just general support for the vast number of people who have left the library and are working there, who constantly tell me, please speak up, because we can't. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Any other? It looks like we have no more members of the public in the chamber who have not spoken. So are there any other speakers on WebEx who would like to speak? It's hearing and seeing none. I will say thank you once again to everybody who has been here tonight. Some important topics, certainly, and look forward to working with this council and with all of you to address these issues. So thank you to everybody who has come out tonight, and we will close the public session, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, thank you. That was motion by Councilman Pacina, seconded by Councilman McKeown. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Or excuse me, meeting stands in adjournment. It's unanimous. Meeting stands in adjournment at 6:47. And thank you again, everybody. We will take a quick break here, and then we will get underway with our special meeting in a couple minutes.